Hello everybody and welcome to RhinoGold training level 1. In this video we will see how to use a relative and absolute coordinates. So first of all I want you to know that the relative and absolute coordinates are useful in all RhinoGold's tools. So let's see what do they mean. As we already know, we've got an X and Y axis. We also have a Z axis, but let's forget about for a moment, okay? So let's imagine that I want to draw something like a line, for example, from my 0 point and the end of my line got to be at 5, for example, okay? It's very easy, isn't it? But let's imagine that I want to draw my line, but I want to my line have a decimal value, so here I've got to use coordinates. So we've got to remember that we express our coordinates by X and Y axis. So let's make an example to understand it better. Remember that you have an X and Y axis, coordinates appears here, okay? We also have the Z axis, but we don't use it now. We're gonna see it in next examples, okay? Well, so I've got to create a first line. Okay, first point we also first point we're gonna create it in 0, enter. Okay, in the end of a line we're gonna write that we want it, for example, 5 millimeters here, so we're gonna put 5, comma, and we're gonna indicate the Y axis height, so I'm gonna put 4, for example, and let's see what do we have. We have our line from 0, from the start of my Y and X axis, better saying, and it goes 5 to right and 4 up. Of course that we can model in RhinoGold without knowing about coordinates, but it's very important to know all the features. Okay, so why don't we make another example together for you could understand better how do the absolute coordinates work. First of all, we're going to create a rectangle, but let's delete this couple of lines and select a polyline tool. And here in start of polyline I'm gonna write 0, 0, because the first 0 gonna mean the first start point in my X axis, and the second 0 separated by comma does mean the first point in my start Y axis. So I'm gonna press enter now and we have this point placed here. Okay, so now I'm gonna indicate the second point of my rectangle. I wanna the width of my rectangle is gonna be 10, so first of all I'm gonna write it 10, comma, as we don't want to height now still, so I'm gonna write just a comma 0 and press enter. So here we have it. Now for activate this point, the third one, we're gonna know that it's 10 millimeters here and 5 millimeters here, so let's write it 10, 5. You understand it, isn't it? It's easy. Okay, so now we have to make this point. In X axis is 0 and it's just 5 millimeters in Y axis. Right, 5, enter. Okay, good. Just to close it, we can we're gonna write 0, 0 and press enter. So here we have it. It's easy. Remember that you always can contact us and ask your questions, calling us or just writing an email to us, and we will be glad to resolve your doubts. I'm gonna explain you now the difference between absolute and relative coordinates, okay? Let's delete this rectangle and create a polyline, this one, like this, okay? The difference is very simple. It's just that in absolute coordinates we use this point as a reference point and we start from it counting our millimeters in my Y and my X axis, and in relative coordinates we use this point, the last one point created, as our reference point, okay? So knowing that, it's very easy to understand that how can we create this figure that left here. Okay, first of all, remember that for right relative coordinates we're gonna write an R, and after that we're gonna write a 0 because we don't wanna height in X axis, comma, minus 5. Okay? Well, and let's click enter. Here we have this point. Now we're also gonna write R, and in x-axis we're gonna write minus 5. Okay. And in my y-axis I'm gonna write 0. Okay, comma 0, excuse me, this way. Okay, and to finish it we can just attach my mouse cursor over here and close it up. So this is the difference between relative and absolute coordinates. Okay, and as the last thing, I would like to explain you how to draw lines by coordinates with degrees. Okay, how to draw angles. Well, let's delete this. Okay, let's press line, start point 0, enter. And in the end of the line, for example, I want to my line have 5 millimeters, for example, of length. Okay, so we're gonna write R of relative, 5 as the distance, well, length of my curve, the sign of bigger than, and the number of degrees that I would like it to have. This, for example. So now I know that this line is 30 degrees and it's 5m. Well, let's create another one. 0, we'll write here R of relative, 7m for example, sign of bigger than, and number of degrees. So here we have it.